I'm very, very excited. We have Nextdoor in the house. We have their new CEO. Please welcome Sarah Friar to the stage.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to sit here with you. We were chatting a little bit in the back. This is a very, very powerful woman, a very, very smart woman, and and incredibly down to earth, which is...
Yeah, I don't know if I'm that powerful. You should see me in the morning with my kids and a husband. There's no power at all. They got it all.
We had a prep call, and I said I did a little bit of social media stalking, and she said I did some social media stalking on you too. It's like, wow, I feel very fancy now. So formerly 6 years as the CFO of Square.
That's right.
So in the Silicon Valley, in that role, that's amazing as a female leader, and now stepping into the role as CEO since December?
That's right.
At Nextdoor. So tell me, what led you to want to take on this role, and what are you passionate about when it comes to it?
Absolutely. So it's kind of an easy one. So first and foremost, just love being involved around mission-driven companies. So Nextdoor, all about how do we create stronger, better communities. I presume, I can't quite see you all, but how many people are on Nextdoor? Yeah, so I love consumer internet. I think Nextdoor is the best thing going on in consumer internet right now, because I think we're able to both drive trust. So we absolutely verify our members. So social media is going through its own little kind of mini nightmare. I think Nextdoor came at this very differently. I think secondarily, we have context. So all of that great data that's coming out of your neighborhood, all of those stories, and we just talked about it behind the stage, whether it's Hurricane Harvey and helping your neighbors actually survive, all the way through to just local interests like parenting teens, the boat I'm sitting in right now. And then I think the third thing that we really drive to is how do we get people from online, which is often they come to Nextdoor to meet, but get them into offline and actually bring the humanity back into the world where we're not stuck behind a screen, but we're actually meeting each other physically.
Yeah, we've gone for such a long time now, and none of us know how to talk anymore, I feel. I feel like there's such a disconnect there in sales and in just general relationships. And I really like, Facebook's great, but it connects, worldwide. Nextdoor is just so powerful. And I want to stress to everyone in the audience, I think and we talked about this a moment ago, a lot of us look at Nextdoor, in the beginning it was amazing and it still is, but then as real estate professionals, we were given the opportunity to, purchase ad space. And sometimes when you then have the opportunity to buy into something and use it for that, you look at it differently. And I want you to forget about all that because it's a great platform, but it really connects you to your neighbor, and that's something that doesn't happen, very often anymore. Sarah was on Good Morning America. Was it just a couple of weeks ago or last
Monday.
week?
It's been the longest week, Monday morning. Robin, she was
2
amazing.
days ago?
Yeah.
Oh wow, I just watched the link. It was so good, and there was a woman on there.
Sarah Friar, yeah.
Yes, and what is her company's name?
Yeah, so a great story. So I think a good example, and there's learning in this, I think, for all of you too. So Sarah moved to her new neighborhood. It's actually Texas, so she's technically kind of a neighbor. I know Texas is big. She didn't know anyone, and so she got on Nextdoor and actually posted and said, hey, I grew up with strong communities. I would just love to get to know my neighbors. So come on over to my backyard. My dad builds tables. I'd love you to all just break bread with me. And she thought maybe 10, 20 people would show up. 90 people showed up that first night, and something really special happened. And I think that's exactly the point of Nextdoor, right? It's people that you trust that live around you, people you probably don't know, but how do you make a difference in your community? And so she has taken that show on the road. She now has tables delivered, hand-delivered, it's not super scalable, to 30 states, and her goal is 50 states by 2020. And I tell you that story because she's running a business too, right? She's a small business, or a local business. I actually don't like the word small, because I think we're local businesses, just like all of you are running a local business. And I think what she learned in that is there's so much of the selling motion and the marketing motion is what I call the fill the bucket moment. So I spend a lot of time with small businesses because of my Square roots, and also I run a nonprofit called Ladies Who Launch. So it's about women starting businesses. And what I've learned in that fill the bucket moment is so much of marketing is about building your reputation, that you truly become that trusted advisor in your neighborhood. I have a great example of a woman selling new forms of cocktails. And what she learned is when she teaches people how to set the beautiful Thanksgiving table, or it's apple season, here's a great apple martini recipe. So she effectively fills the bucket with content 70% of the time, and then 30% of the time she does the hard sell, like come buy my new cocktail. And I think of all of you sitting in real estate, right? You're in a market area that is all about community, right? People don't buy a house, they buy a home. People don't want to just see bricks and mortar. They want to understand, you know, who are my neighbors? What are the local schools like? How friendly are people? Are people going to invite me to the backyard for a meal? And I think you can help get that message out and really be seen as experts. I see the realtor who owns my particular neighborhood in California. She posts about things like, hey neighbors, it's time to cut away the dead wood. Remember, we're about to head into fire season, right? Very top of mind when you live in California. Here's a couple of tree people that I've used that you can actually find here on the platform. And I think just that sort of in the feed, filling the bucket means that Colleen is actually, I know her by her first name. I've never met her, but I'm like, Colleen, she's always got my back.
That's my friend.
And so that's the 70% of like build your reputation, build your expertise, be that neighbor. And then 30% is, okay, now I'm thinking of selling my home. Who do I call? Of course, I'm going to call the person that's been so helpful the whole way through.
We had a panel on emotional intelligence earlier, and I think the agents who lack that are sometimes the ones that jump on Nextdoor, and they're like, hello, like, I'm here for you, who wants to buy or sell something? And there's no way, no faster way to get thrown out of a neighborhood than doing that, for those of you who have tried doing that on Nextdoor. Yeah. And I love that. It's those that are the most real within their neighborhood.
Authentic.
Yes, absolutely authentic, and that's how you get the business through Nextdoor. So I wanted to ask you specifically, like, how do you see? I love that you call it local business instead of small business.
Yeah.
Along with commerce as we push forward. I loved your role again at Square, but talk to us about that and technology in general as we move through 2019.
Yeah, so tech trends. So forgive me, but I've kind of been a tech nerd my whole life. I'm an engineer by training. I kind of cut my teeth both taking my mom's, we called them Hoovers because I grew up in the UK, to pieces and then trying to piece it back together again or playing with Legos. So I've always loved tech. When you look at like the big trends right now, the things that we're focused on or I'm focused on, one is definitely data. And data, you know, I've heard people call it the new oil, which is both a good thing, right? Clearly with data, we can do so much to personalize an experience. And there's some just great stats. I think something like almost 80% of all US citizens are willing to give up an incredible amount of personal data if there is a benefit for them on the other side. But we all know that with that view on data, right, there comes very quickly the creepy side of it, right? How much do people really know about me? Where are they using that? And of course, that's going to bring a lot of regulation and a lot of kind of constraints, which are good, frankly, to make sure we're doing it well. And that's why I go back to trust at the core of Nextdoor is about verifying you live there, and then being very clear that you're in a conversation within the boundary that actually the lead drew. So it's not a zip code, it's a neighborhood. So one is just data, what's going to go on with data. I am fascinated by artificial intelligence. Yeah. Right? Clearly, we're moving on a continuum. Right? We would have called them software algorithms. Then we talked about machine learning. Now we talk about things like deep learning. I help build products around things like how do we use your local business data, frankly, to be able to do things like better lending. And it took a lot of bias out of the system, too, by the way. So one of the things I was very proud about at Square is just how many women got loans for their local business, a very different rate from the background rate of how many women get loans just generally in the US economy, which tells you a lot about just inherent bias, which when you move to things like machine learning and ultimately artificial intelligence, the bias starts to disappear. We are moving to AI, and just think what that's doing, right? We have devices in our homes. We are getting more and more tailored. It's going to change your world dramatically because people's home is the thing that has the highest value in their life. It is the biggest purchase they'll ever make. It's how they accumulate wealth, right, as you appreciate through equity. And so I think there'll be more and more put around that. It's kind of a second really big trend that's top of mind. And then just generally, I think that there is a whole trend around platform companies that are starting to move into actually owning physical assets again. So, right, the tech world became this world of virtual reality. But think about Amazon buying Whole Foods. Clearly very top of mind. I get to spend a lot of time with Walmart, actually, as sitting on their board. I'm fascinated by where bricks and mortar are kind of becoming cool again. Goes back to because people want to have the physical location. You're seeing other companies starting to own physical bricks and mortar too, right? Is someone like an Open Door, a friend or a foe, because they're starting to own some of that real estate, and how's that going to impact a market for realtors? There are other kind of interesting themes, I think, in your world, whether it's people working more from home, so they live and work in the same place. We are certainly pushing, when I think about our company, we need to get out of just hiring in locations like San Francisco or New York, because the battle for talent is so immense that we need to be very open to having a virtual workforce. And technology has made that easier and easier, right? You all live this dream too, because you're in effect virtual workforces. So I think there's a bunch of trends that are going to hit your particular segment of the market, but are just broadly changing how everyone's interacting with their home.
Well, I want to ask you something else, because as I was researching to do this panel, I saw you say quite often, and in several other videos, that people would ask you, well, how do you not lose sight of the main goal, or how have you gotten to where you're at? And you always would say that you followed your North Star. And for those of us, and myself, and those in the audience that are building a business and they're entrepreneurs and working for others and have employees, talk to me a little bit about that. How has that gotten you to where you're at?
Sure. So a couple of North Stars. Number one, in building and running a business, always getting your customer first. And it sounds trite, and so many people say it and overuse it, but you kind of see it in their actions. And so I really think about that a lot with my team. I want us to talk about our members first and foremost, right? If you look at that, for example, just that segment on GMA, right, people often want to profile the CEO or profile the company, and I'm like, we are nothing without these members, so we need to tell their story and get more of that out in front. So as you all think about your business, I know there's a lot I get a lot of smiley faces through my mailbox of local realtors, but I would love to see your member stories coming forward. Like, tell me about the person that you worked with that moved into the neighborhood and what their experience was, because that's when I'll start to grow a bond of trust with you, rather than just, you look great. You always all look great, by the way.
It's a lot of filters.
So that is one particular North Star, and it's a place where I'll stop my team all the time and say, hey, I know that right now this might be better for Nextdoor, but this is not in the spirit of like putting our members first. So let's think much more long-term greedy. And I'm young at the company, but like I think that's already North Starring right through it. Personally, I've learned to think about, family has to come first for me. That's a true North Star. And so if I start to see that balance getting out of whack, first of all, they're very good at reminding me about this, but I have to be good at understanding that I truly, if that is my North Star, that I am going to put that first. And so I do look for ways to kind of, perhaps bring them into my orbit. I've taken my daughter on business trips with me, for example, because I just think it's great for her to see both what business is about. It's good for her to see her mom in action a little bit. It gives her some empathy for me. But also it allows me to have like some very cherished personal time that I wouldn't get if I'm constantly leaving her at home. Now we have to fit around school schedules, but that was just one way where I started to try to create a different form of work-life balance.
You're such a breath of fresh air. I'm really excited that they had me here to speak to you, because that definitely speaks to me, and I'm sure a lot of people here in the audience. We don't have too much time left, but I want to ask you, what should we be looking forward to when it comes to Nextdoor? What can we see coming up in the coming year?
So first of all, give us feedback. We are certainly not perfect, and we are very young in learning how to work with local businesses, starting with real estate agents. So the first thing that you will see from us is just continued growth. So we're already in over 90% of all the neighborhoods in the United States. Over 70% of all of our neighbors are homeowners. So we're a perfect platform. And we're going global. So we're in 8 countries around the world. So expect to see us do more and more of that. The great thing is there's not a community in the world that doesn't want to strengthen itself and be healthier and better. Even if we may disagree with their politics or whatever, they still are just normal people going about their business. So that's number one. Second is engagement. So we want to find ways to help people be their better selves on Nextdoor. There's a lot of transactional stuff on the platform, and there should be, right? What's the best plumber? Where's the best place to go grab pizza? Can I get a tutor for my kids, right? There's a lot of transactional requests, but we would love to start to see more and more stories unfold. And so that's why you see when we highlight member stories, we give people a little bit of a, I haven't thought I could do that. Like even post a GMA segment, I saw folks saying, I never thought of using Nextdoor to so deeply connect.
Yeah.
So more engagement. And then I think the third thing is building up just more and more solutions around local commerce. So thank you all the real estate agents who've trusted us and come on the platform. We want to do the same for local businesses like home services, the local plumber, and so on, and then starting to get into areas like retail and food. So expect to see us build more and more of that out because we want to give more utility ultimately to the member.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for the opportunity to start connecting better with my neighbors, and thank you for being here, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you,
so much.
neighbors.